Hi everyone, I'm Sally.
I'm Anne-Marie.
And welcome to your ICE assembly for this week. So, last time we filmed one of our assemblies, we shared Anne-Marie's favourite story from the Bible with you. I wonder if you can remember. It was a story about Elijah and how God spoke to him during a difficult time in a gentle way and helped encourage him to keep on going. Well, it's my turn to share a story this week. And to let you know before we go into our story, I really like dramatic things, whether it's a play, whether it's a film, whether it's a novel. I just love drama. So I love dragons coming into stories, sea serpents, big adventures and twists and turns. And I wonder if you watching enjoy dramatic stories as well. And I know, Anne-Marie, that you do. So would you like to share with everyone watching what your favourite story or book or dramatic tale is?
Sure, yes. One of the stories that I really love that features dragons and epic battles and all sorts of things that you just mentioned in that list of epic story things is The Lord of the Rings. You might have seen that there are movies telling that story as well as the book series, and I love both the movies and the books. I think it's just such an incredible story about a group of people going on a quest to defeat evil, which is very dramatic in nature. So yes, I do love The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, fantastic choice, yes.
How about you, Sally? Have you got any other books that you particularly enjoy?
I've got many, but one series I've loved for many years is The Chronicles of Narnia. You might have heard of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, but there are 7 other books in the series, and one I particularly like is this one, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, where they end up on a ship with all sorts of adventures trying to find Aslan's country. And I really recommend this if you enjoy a dramatic story. So that's us, but I wonder about you. Have you got a favourite dramatic film or story or even theatre play that you like? And why do you like it? Take a moment to think now before we carry on. So why have we been talking about dramatic stories? Well, the story I've picked today is a very dramatic time in the Bible, and it concerns a man called Elisha. Now that sounds like quite similar to the prophet we talked about last time, Elijah, that was in Anne-Marie's favourite story. And that's because Elisha was Elijah's apprentice. He came straight after him and carried on the work that Elijah was doing. And he continued to see lots of different amazing ways that God was helping the people of Israel. And we're going to hear about 2 particular stories today.
Meet Elisha. He was a prophet in the Bible. What that means was that God spoke to him, and he shared God's message with the people around him. Elisha lived in the country of Israel, and he did all sorts of incredible things during his lifetime. An assembly is too short a time to share them all with you, so we're just going to hear about 2 of them. Today's story is a story of 2 problems. The first problem concerned all of Israel. They were at war with the country of Aram. The king of Aram wanted to put his soldiers in a good position, and so he would say to his generals, "Let's set up our camp over there." But when he did that, Elisha heard a message from God and warned the king, "Be careful of going to that place. The Arameans are going to be there." And when the king checked, he was right. So the king of Aram moved his army. And again, Elisha warned the king of Israel, and they were able to keep safe. This happened a number of times, until the king of Aram got angry and said to his officers, "Tell me, which one of us is on Israel's side?" He thought one of his officers must be telling the Israelites where his camp would be. "None of us," the officers replied. "It's Elisha, the prophet, who's doing it. He tells the king of Israel everything you say, even things you say in private." "Go and find him for me, and I will send men to capture him," the king declared. And so they found where Elisha was staying, and the king sent horses and chariots out at night to surround the city. Elisha's servant got up early that morning, and when he went out, he got a big shock. An army with horses and chariots were surrounding the city. "Oh no! What shall we do?" he asked. But Elisha told him not to be afraid. "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And he prayed for his servant to see God's help. When he had finished praying, the servant looked around and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha, keeping him safe. When the enemy army came down towards Elisha, he prayed to God, "Please stop them from being able to see." And as he prayed, God took away their sense of sight. As they were confused and unable to see, Elisha walked up to them and said, "This isn't the road or the right city. Follow me, and I will lead you to the man you're looking for." And he led them to where the king of Israel was with his army. And when they got there, God let them see again, and they saw that they were surrounded. The king of Israel wondered whether he should get rid of all of his enemies there and then, since they were in his power. But Elisha told him, "Don't hurt them. Give them food and water, and then send them back to their king." And so the king prepared a great feast for them. They ate and drank, and then went home in one piece to their king. And after that, the king of Aram stopped sending people to raid Israel, and the war was over for a time.
So that was a pretty dramatic story there, a huge battle. Can you imagine what Elisha's servant must have thought when he opened his door or looked out the window that morning and saw the huge amounts of soldiers and armies and battles and things lined up on the horizon? He must have been terrified, thinking it was all over for them. But Elisha didn't panic, did he? He trusted God, and God was able to divert that huge battle into something else, and even kept the Arameans safe, even though they were kind of the enemy army. God did something amazing and very dramatic for them and for the people of Israel. But as Sally said, there are actually two stories today. So we've had the first one, which is very big and very dramatic, and this second story actually takes place a little bit before this big dramatic event. So let's take a look and see what happens. Now, Elisha was with some people who were hoping to build a place where they could meet together. Some of the men went to cut down trees for the wood they needed, when for one man it all went wrong. He swung his axe, but instead of it hitting the tree, the axe head fell off, and it fell with a plop into a nearby pond. "Oh no!" he cried. "It was a borrowed axe!" Elisha came over and asked him to point out where the axe head had fallen, and when he knew, he cut a stick and threw it there. As he did so, God made the iron float, so that the man was able to reach out and pick up his lost axe head. Phew, he wouldn't have to replace that borrowed axe after all.
Today we told you about two very different problems. One concerned a whole country, including kings and warriors and Elisha the prophet right in the middle of it all. And one concerned one man and his axe. And yet, even though those two stories are very, very different, in both of them, God used Elisha to help both of those situations. So he helped a whole country avoid war, and he helped one man with his bad day. And that just goes to show us, in the Bible, we see that God cares about our situations, whatever they are, whether they're really big and dramatic and exciting, or whether they're our ordinary everyday lives.
Yeah, that's right, because sometimes in our lives there might be big and dramatic things going on. Hopefully not big battles or anything like that, but sometimes we have big celebrations to get to, big events and parties, or sometimes we might have a long journey or a really big epic journey to visit someone or go on holiday somewhere. Or maybe sometimes we have those situations that aren't so good or exciting that come up when we maybe have to rethink a few things and just take stock. So sometimes we do have those big dramatic times, but most of the time, for most of us, life is just our everyday normal routine. There's some days that are good and some days that are bad and some days that are kind of a mix and just in the middle.
Did you know that Christians believe we can ask God to be with us in all of our experiences? whether things are big and loud and impressive, or whether things are just ordinary and everyday. The Bible tells us that God cares about us in all of these things. They don't have to be really big for God to take notice. He cares even about the smallest things in our days.
That's right, and when those big, exciting, or maybe sometimes scary or worrying things do come along, we know that from what the Bible tells us, we can talk to God about those things too, and that He is with us in those big, scary times, just the same way He was with Elisha and Elisha's servant too. So, things we've learned from today is that God can be with us in those big, scary, exciting times. Nothing is too big for God to handle, but He's also with us in our everyday lives. Nothing is too small for God to handle either. So, as we're thinking about talking about our big and our small problems with God, why don't we take some time now to reflect on what we've listened to today, and maybe to talk to God if we'd like to as well.
What kind of things do you have ahead of you this year? Have you got any big events coming up? Is there something you're really excited or nervous about? Who is going to be there to share that experience with you? And what does a normal day look like for you? Have you got a favourite part of your normal day that you look forward to? Who is a part of your everyday life? Let's pray. Faithful God, thank you that you are with us in the big, dramatic times and in the small, everyday times too. Please help us to look out for you in every situation and to remember that we can talk to you about whatever is going on. Thank you for the people who share all of these life journeys with us. Amen.